here's a question that I've heard a lot throughout the years because it's a conundrum for some people, and I get it. It's a big word. And Ed laughed at my big word.
And you're piling this one on. I don't know
You
what
are,
it
really.
I am.
A conundrum.
Yes.
We have the answer.
Yes. So people have asked me throughout the years, okay, so why is it that God doesn't make himself more clear, more visible? And I think what people mean when they ask me that question is, I know I'm supposed to have faith, but why didn't God just show up and show himself to me, and then I wouldn't have to believe? You know what I mean? I wouldn't have to have so much faith. They asked the question in terms of, I think it would be better if God just showed himself in a more visible kind of way. So who wants to go first on that? Why I have a few thoughts, but
I also have a few thoughts.
go ahead.
But
And
I'm
start
okay.
your,
We'll let
start your
somebody
thoughts.
I only want to preface it with one thing,
Okay.
because this isn't a full answer to the question.
Okay.
And I know there's more details to this, but I do think it's important to say, when you say, like, why doesn't God just show up and appear? That is the basis of the Christian faith, though, is that we do
It's a
believe
Yes.
that God did show up and he
Yes.
did make himself clear with Jesus on the cross in the person of Jesus. Now, I get that's probably not the question that you're asking. You're asking, why did God not
It's a personal-
personally
it's a
come to me?
personal-
But
Well,
I do
but-
think it's just important to preface with that idea.
And let's be really clear that even when that happened, not everyone who saw him personally
Absolutely.
did have faith.
In fact, I was
Which
just
probably
reading.
gets to one of our reasons. That,
Well, yeah, and I was just going to say the chapter that I'd read in my discipleship group today was an instance from the book of John where people were literally coming to Jesus after he had just performed a miracle, by the way, the loaves and fish, and they said, now why don't you show us a miracle so that we will believe in you?
Yeah.
And they had actually been there
they
for
witnessed
right.
one.
They wanted something for themselves. So that's always been the case, I think.
That ultimately, I think, is the answer. When I can remember years ago, I wound up having a conversation like this, and then I did a message called "Seeing Isn't Believing," because I think we all think if I saw it, I'd believe it. But you see stuff all the time that you choose not to believe.
Right.
The truth is, believing is seeing. I believe something is true, and I look for it. I begin to see it everywhere around me. Because Christians and non-Christians see the same things. Christians and atheists see the same things and draw different conclusions.
Yes.
The evidence is the same.
Yeah.
So one person says that's coincidence. The other person says that's God. One person said Jesus is the Son of God. The other person said no, he's a devil.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's not seeing is believing. We once I take a step of faith, what I see changes. And I think it's the nature of humanity. It's true with human beings. There are people, for most of us, I guess I can't say 100% because I'm not in everybody's head. I'll say this of me. There are people I see, and I'll look at them, and I'll watch them for a while. I don't know them very well. And this is going to tell you more than you want to know. It sounds really judgmental. I bet most people are this way. I don't know you very well. I'll watch you, and I'll draw a conclusion about you. I don't really have evidence other than what I have seen. And I either say, that's a really nice person. I don't know anything beyond what I have surmised about a little bit of evidence. I don't know for sure they're a nice person. Or there's other people watching the same person and go, that dude's a fake.
Sure.
They also don't have any more evidence. I am drawing conclusions out of what I see. So I've always said, I don't believe for me that if God showed up in front of me, unless he came as the appearance of what I have in my head. I mean, it'd have to be, which again, if he was God, and even then I would think, because I know too much, I'd go, dude, you just had a psychotic episode.
Yeah, absolutely. And
You
I've
just
heard
had
people
a
say that.
You had a psychotic episode right there.
I just recently heard a question and answer session where someone asked, it was a person who was an avowed atheist, and they said, so could you tell us what would it take for you to see or experience for you to believe that God was real? And one of the things they said something like, well, I guess if a chicken learned to talk and taught me, physics or something like that, and it was something ridiculous like that, and they said, well, actually, like you just said, if that happened, I would question myself then. I would
Right.
believe that I had gone crazy. So now you put yourself in a position where there really is nothing.
That's right. Once I've decided I need more proof, because, a premise of Paul in the book of Romans is God has made himself evident to every person if you want to see it, which is why when people say to me, what about people who've never heard about Jesus? I believe God hasn't. I believe God's going to treat everybody fairly based on the evidence that they were provided with.
Absolutely.
And if you had never heard about Jesus and yet you were faithful to the evidence that you had, I think that's what Paul is getting at.
Well, and even this is not disagreeing with what you said, but even more than God will treat us fairly based on the evidence, we know God will treat us more than gracious based on
That's
the
what
evidence.
I should have
Yes.
said. I should have said God is going to treat us graciously, because that's his nature.
Yes.
God is not withholding good from anybody who
Yes.
wants to
Who
have the
wants
good that God has. He is
Yeah.
going way beyond that. What we often get is when people say God has not treated me fairly, is they mean I wanted a Mountain Dew Zero and God gave me Diet Mountain Dew.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's the
Yeah.
nature
Or
of
he gave me water.
Or, yeah,
You know,
whatever.
I'm not trying to make light that I almost got it. Maybe they did have bad circumstances. You know,
knows?
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It's often I need this very specific thing, and then I've seen people get the specific thing and go, and this.
Well, and I think it's the nature of who God is in that. And I think this is really hard for us to understand. I mean, the more I talk to people about it, I think so much of our problems with God is God's basic passion and love for free will in human beings, in that he does not overwhelm us
Yes.
to a point. Because I think even with everything we're saying, there still are people, and I've even had these thoughts and questions of, okay, I get it, but he's God, so he can do anything. Why doesn't he just make it so abundantly clear that no one could deny? And within that question is the answer, which is then no one could choose to deny.
That's
That's right.
And if
And he would cease to be loving.
right, because love requires me
Or he would change. There would not be a human being.
right.
What we know as humanity, and I get that there are people that don't believe. There's a whole world of people, if you don't know, not just religious people, atheists, that don't believe free will exists.
That's right.
That we're just we're reacting out of our genes, reacting out of our chemistry,
Instincts and,
and our instincts and all of that. And so for them, one, you don't already believe in God, so this is not an honest question if you are an atheist who's wanting to know this, because you already decided that this isn't true, and you don't believe I have free will, so every explanation I make about that, you've already excluded any answer that I could possibly give you. But if you believe that I am actively choosing, like I chose this and Nathan chose that, and it wasn't because I could have just, I do like that too, and he does like this too, you know what I'm saying? But if those are the kind of things that we're left with, if God eliminates that, I am some other kind of being.
That's right.
I'm not a
Yeah.
human.
And at its core, as you said, it's a love issue, and God does not. God allows us the right to choose what we want to, how we want to perceive the world. You know, we're talking about triggered. That's all part of that. How I want to perceive the world. How I want to perceive reality and truth. And if I really do want to believe there is no God, there is nothing beyond what I can see, as you said earlier, I can look at all the evidence and make a compelling case for that being the case. Because in the end, when you know, the way English language works, I am compelled to want that because I've told myself that's what I want. There's something that's telling me. But if I genuinely, there's something within me that sees all this and goes, and I believe from the Spirit of God that's compelling me, is drawing me towards it, then I can look at the same evidence and I can see God's hand at work. So I understand even, that's probably another question another time then. So aren't we just choosing? Yes.
Yeah, we are.
That is the nature of free will, is that I get to choose. And God, by his nature, allows me to choose, and I can then choose not to. And so I think when you
But
get
I'm
to...
choosing that with everybody too, not just with God. I've been married, next year will be 41 years. I choose to continue to believe that Becky loves me, though there have been enough in 41 years that if I chose to believe that she doesn't, I have enough evidence.
Well, sure.
You know what I'm saying? I have way more than enough evidence to prove that she does. I also have a mountain of evidence that says that she doesn't. I've known you your whole life. I've known you for more of your life than than you haven't known me. I have plenty of evidence to say we are going to be committed to each other our whole life long. But if that ceased to be true, I would say to myself, I should have seen that coming. You know what I'm saying? Because
I
because
should have looked at that other evidence.
I should have looked at that other evidence because that's the way that is.
Yeah.